That first floor there, everything that's in the hatch, that is going to be that new addition. There is a double hatched area there that will be the ICC 500 storm shelter. So in the event of a tornado, that will be where the students and staff can take refuge during that event. Some of the other kind of big goals with this project is to make the classrooms larger. Right now, a lot of those classrooms are pretty small. So increasing the size of those classrooms, renovating a lot of the kind of existing utilities to the building. So kind of redoing all those to since it's reached the kind of lifespan of a lot of those systems as far as mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and then also kind of increasing administrative uh, rooms, since that's lacking right now, and also creating and adding additional special education rooms, so they all have their kind of dedicated spaces, and increasing flexible learning spaces kind of throughout the building, matching what we'd previously done at McGrath. So second floor plan, that link that's going to be out there in between the drive, that'll be remaining most in the same spot. That is also going to be a two-story building addition there that we'll be looking at doing. As I mentioned, there's an elevator in that will connect all three levels of the building. That first floor is kind of a split level since there's about 3 feet of grade difference. And that will also tie into the second floor of the 1930s building as well. And here's a couple perspectives of the building. So these are from Litzinger Road, kind of looking down at the main entry. There at the front entry, we have decorative split face block. They're similar to what we did at McGrath. There is a red brick blend that will match the existing brick buildings there on the site. And then we have some eaves kind of eaves wainscoting up higher, or not wainscoting, but eaves up high on the second story, just to kind of help mitigate costs and keep costs down on the overall project, which is a similar strategy that we took at McGrath. Overall forms of the buildings, we kind of kept with a similar language of the existing 1930s building there. So you'll see some of the roof forms kind of keep a similar shape as that 1930s building as well. There's a couple more perspectives as well, just kind of from around the site, looking back at the building. This project was under the threshold of Mid-American Water, their threshold for stormwater detention. However, the city's own stormwater management regulations did take into place, so we are providing some underground stormwater detention to make up for the increase in impermeable area as well. Otherwise, I think that about covers it. I can either answer any questions now or back over to you.
Maybe a little bit combination of that, Mr. Higgins. I do understand just the plan, however, is that the students, and I believe from staff report, there's not going to be an increase in enrollment expected with this expansion, but the students are going to be moving over to McGrath during construction phase. Renovation construction will be complete, and then they'll go back to Mark Twain, but there's not really an expectation of increased enrollment based on
Yes, yep, that is correct.
Let's go to staff report, and then we can ask questions. So give us a second. Ms. Kelly, please.
Just 1 second. Whitney Kelly on behalf of the city of Brentwood. The subject property is zoned B single family residential. Our zoning code does include public and private schools as part of a conditional use permit. State law only provides that it shall be reviewed at the Planning and Zoning Commission. So since our code listed as a CUP, I did think that we needed to proceed with having CUP. However, the city review is limited to those things that are public health and safety related. So they are required to get building codes, and we can review things such as site parking and lighting and those other safeties and their impact on the surrounding areas. So I won't go, I mean, the applicant has gone into detail about his project, so I'll try to just briefly go over those things. But as they indicated, they're doing an 11,459 square foot addition. The students at the
Ms. Kelly, hold on one second. Sounds like the sound is off. I think you need to turn the sound down on your computer, like the actual volume down, but need to have her not muted. I think that's what's causing the feedback. But Ms. Bilderback cannot hear you anymore. Turn the volume down on your laptop. I think that may.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
There we go.
So they eliminated the parallel parking in front of the building, which will aid in drop-off for the children and aid in traffic flow. And they're actually improving the pedestrian area right here along Litzinger and relocating the trash dumpsters here. The other item that is a condition of approval is their parking lot lighting showed light poles mounted at 20 feet. The ordinance does state that anything above 16 feet has to be approved specifically by site development plan. Given its proximity to residents, I did recommend that it should be lowered to 16. That would add an additional light pole to meet with the minimum standard of lighting at night. The applicants have said they agreed with that, and their revised drawings up here that they showed on their drawings actually showed the 16, so that they're in agreement with that. I'll get to they had some nice landscaping. I did not have our landscape architect do a review of that. They are adding street trees. It did look very nice landscaping, but that is probably, that would be outside the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the school. So, and be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. And just actually one question on the light poles spillage. I assume that we're not having spillage over the property lines, even with that change in 16-foot, 20-foot.
Yes, correct. The photometric plan did not show any spillage. They're actually on the outside of the parking and directed inward towards the building, so there shouldn't be any spillage. So,
at this point, open up to any questions from commissioners for the petitioner or their representative or for staff.
I had some questions,
Carlin,
but
yes.
they're probably outside of the purview.
No, just for folks who aren't familiar with this, so the school district is its own political subdivision. So basically, our purview is health and safety. And Mr. O'Keefe, keep me honest here, but something I've had a little personal experience with as well. So yeah, that's barely what we're looking at. However, questions, I mean, in terms of our ability to require, but to ask questions, I think that's the purpose.
Try to stay focused. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Because as the architect on the committee, I can point out that they provided our samples of the materials. I did review them against our MC design guidelines. The EFIS on the second floor is under like 3% or 8%. And this split face block was just on that front element and represented like 6% of the overall building, of all the buildings brick. So I felt that that was consistent with our MC district guidelines. So,
Mr. Carlin.
And again, understanding the boundaries of what we do here. I mean, I think massing wise, it seems nice and respectful to the, the project, just an opinion. I did have some questions, which I think I know some of the answers to, but just wanted to ask. As far as the locating of the volume to the front of the project, as opposed to the parking lot in the back, right? It does, health and safety wise, not necessarily, but it has the effect of taking the mass and bringing it much closer to the street. It also, as a former parent of two kids there, like it removes a really nice feature of the project, which is that open space in front of the project, right? So I assume you studied that, but what, first question would be like, what was the final decider to make that volume in front and not the back? And then a follow-up question would be the rendering. I can't open I can't open your document. I can only open the staff report for some reason, so I can't see the other renderings. But the rendering I have, it appears that the split face block is not the same color as the EFIS, which in the materials it appears that you're trying to match them. And so that color is kind of is an introduction to the site. It's not there currently, so I'm also just curious, beyond the affinity with McGrath, right? I'm wondering what's the purpose. And I think that the block in the front, like at least in this rendering, looks like it could use a little bit of detailing, perhaps. Like the mullions are nicely detailed. I see the west-facing, solar shades and all that. Looks really nice. But I feel like it's a little stark, and I'm not sure that that color is going to do the job. It's going to change the entire representation. Okay, so a couple of questions and some comments. Sorry. So.
Okay. To answer your first question, though, we did kind of look at that. The school really needed to have kind of a new kind of entry built into it, as far as like a safe and secure entry. So that was really kind of a big predominant spot that we needed to kind of add some area to the project at. As far as kind of where everything kind of tied into, with the main entry being there, we also kind of wanted to tie all the circulation paths in right there as well. So kind of locating that two-story addition there out front worked better, so that way when you enter into the building, you have the elevator right when you walk in that hits the first level, the kind of second split level, and also the third level up above. You have the main foyer stairs as well that you kind of enter in on. Otherwise, locating that stuff kind of on the backside would kind of turn the building turn its back towards the kind of street side. So that's your first question. Second question, about no, it's all good. Yeah, split face, and so yes, correct. These are new elements to the site. There is some cast stone detailing that is on the 1930s and also the 50s building as well. So we're kind of picking up on that a little bit. It is a different material, but still kind of trying to go for that same kind of color and feel of it, and kind of bring that out and kind of create more of a somewhat of a more important kind of entry spot to that. So that was the intention of bringing those materials into the site.
And
Sorry, just follow up. So the rendering again does show more of like a unsaturated color block, like more of a gray almost, right? And then not the same as the EFIS, but it looks like the material is not going to be that way. It's going to be the saturated color on the front block. Is that correct, or?
It should be more kind of like a creamy gold, like what we have down here. I think the rendering, the light angles on it, and the shadows might be kind of messing with the color of that a little bit. Since it is like a split face block, some of the bump mapping on the rendering might be kind of throwing the actual color of the rendering off just a little bit. So
yeah, and I observed that because I was surprised when I saw the materials because the rendering looked a little different. And it's only an opinion, but I think maybe that's too much of that color in the front.
yeah.
But, you can go ahead.
Mr. Foreman. And I do want to make sure that we kind of keep it, we recognize what our role is here, so I think some questions are appropriate, but I want to make sure that we limit that to a reasonable amount.
Building on what Carl's talking about with you've gone to the measure of adding brick coins on that mass on the front, but then the split face block stays monolithic. You've also got the wing wall coming out with a capstone on it, but then the planter around the flagpole, it's from the rendering and from the plans, looks like cast-in-place concrete.
Correct.
So was there a reason those materials didn't tie together? I'm also really curious why you clearly have consciously decided to put the downspout right in the middle.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
It was dipped with footing foundations and everything right there in that corner. It'd be pretty challenging to get that downspout in the corner without having a pretty long leader kind of come off of that and stick into the middle of the sidewalk. So that's why that kind of downspout got located in that spot. But to answer some of your other questions, I think, yeah, the planter, I think we could incorporate some cast stone, or not some cast stone, that split face block into that, just to kind of tie those materials together. Is just kind of something that I think we just kind of missed out on, a missed opportunity. And then as far as detailing, I think the kind of coining, that is something we could look at doing on that front entry to kind of break that up and kind of tie some of that existing coining that is on the existing 1930s kind of into that, and that we have elsewhere on that new addition as well. Just to kind of break that mass up a little bit more.
That entry experience where the two benches in front of the door, under the trees, that's where everyone is gathered for 50 years. And we seem to have lost a bit of that. So getting a little bit more of that, warmth and tactile environment there. I know we're not going to put a bunch of trees in, probably be a security risk, but making that, because that's where the parents gather to pick up the kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids walk.
And that was part of the intention as well with putting that planter there at the front entry. So trying to bring some of that nature kind of back to that main entry area. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. It seems like it's pretty sensitively done. I just agree with everything Matt said. Just don't lose it at that front door because that's going to be the experience now, right? So something could go there, I think. So thank you.
And I do think that one of the things I'll note is it seems to be fairly consistent with the work that was done at the middle school, high school, as well as obviously McGrath. So understand that those safety concerns are real, and I know that the district's looking to address that. Any other questions from commissioners? Ms. Bilderbeck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say I'm really thrilled with the fact that the school district submitted everything they submitted to us, understanding that they're not under an obligation with some of the aspects of it, as has been carefully stated tonight. And having been through this before with prior school district things and all of that, I just really appreciate it. And I don't live, none of us really do too far from there because it's a small community, and I think it actually looks really good. I think that the construction that I've already seen, that they've done on prior school buildings has looked really good, and I think that this looks great. And even though we're not talking about that, it seems to me people would be able to sit around the flagpole as far as like a good place to meet, like if you're picking up kids. And I did briefly have a foster child in that school, so I'm really familiar with it. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I actually think it looks good, and I'm thrilled about the single point of entry, like getting some serious safety. I don't think there's anything that could possibly be more important for the school district to address than the security and access to the school. So I'm thrilled to see that, and it sounds like it's been very well thought through. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Bilderbeck. Any members of the public wishing to address the commission on this item this evening? Seeing none at this point. Any other discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for the Brentwood School District for the renovation and addition of the Mark Twain Elementary School at 8636 Litzinger Road, as discussed in the October 12th Planning and Zoning Commission.
Got a motion by Mr. Favazza. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Moran. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Favazza,
Yes.
Matt Foreman,
Yes.
Carl Carlin,
Yes.
Jeff Hunt,
Yes.
Lisa Shering,
Yes.
Sherry Bilderbeck,
Yes.
John Ritter,
Yes.
Paul Moran. Yes. That one's passed.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moran. And that will then go forward to the Board of Aldermen,
Yes, on November 7th for a public hearing.
November 7th. I do like the idea. I see that planter box, and that tying that in, I think, would be a great idea. So hopefully that will be considered by the school district as well. All right, that is it. Aldermanic report. Seeing no aldermen. Anything from the director this evening? Ms. Kelly?
We do have 3 items for the next agenda, so please mark your calendars.
Excellent. Business is booming in Brentwood. That's
Yeah.
good to know. All right.
Oh,
Anything else for the good of the order? I do have one ask simply, which is to make sure, and I know, and I am guilty of this as well, please do your best to RSVP for these, just so that we can make sure that we have a quorum, really just so that we have courtesy to our applicants. So if we do have to cancel, we can notify them in advance. I hope that we don't have to cancel many of these, because we'd like to keep them on track, but just wanted to do that. And I have been guilty of that, so my apologies, and I will do my best to RSVP earlier. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Moved
There
and
you go.
seconded. I heard it.
Second, yeah.
There we go. We're adjourned.